Hello everyone, welcome to Apti Plus Academy for Civil Services. It's a video on daily news and editorial analysis, which I'll be covering from the Hindu and Indian Express. The important news and editorial that will be relevant for the preparation of civil services examination will be discussed in this session. Let's get started with the news topic list. Today is 3rd of April. The first important news, that is India target to become 1 trillion tourism economy, something very important. And when India is holding the presidency of G20, this is a significant platform where India can boost its tourism. Second, border talks between India and Bhutan. Third, ISRO successfully conduct RLV landing test, that is reusable launch vehicles. The second last is India's fossil fuel lessons for net zero. Today I'll be discussing two editorials. The first is from the Indian Express and second editorial is from Hindu, that is India needs a national program on autism. Apart from the news and editorial discussion, at the end of this video there will be MCQ based questions. These questions will be based on current affairs that will help you for the upcoming prelims examination. So without any further delay, let's get started. And still, if you have not subscribed to our channel, do subscribe to it. And if you're liking this video, if you're finding this video informative and helpful for examination purposes, do press a like button. And if you're appearing for prelims 2023, this is a must for you to get yourself enrolled for the marathon, the All India 7 open mock test that will help you to build a strong concepts. This will include both General Studies Paper 1 and General Studies Paper 2, some exciting offers for top 3 rankers. Also, there's a provisions for cash prize on final selection. I've provided the link in the description section. Do check it out and register yourself to avail the benefits. Now, starting the discussion with the first news, that is India target to become a 1 trillion tourism economy, something relevant for General Studies Paper 2. That is the government policies and intervention for the development of various sectors and issues arising from its design and implementations. So there was an inaugural session. This is the second inaugural session. The name of the session is Second Tourism Working Group Meeting under G20. And this was a ministerial meeting where the Minister for Tourism said that India wants to become a 1 trillion economy with 100 million international visitors by 2047. As you know, India this year has celebrated Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav, and the phase is ongoing and the target has been set for 2047 to have some remarkable achievement. Now, one thing that become important here, those of you will be appearing for many other government examination, the venue become important. So this was there in Siliguri in West Bengal from 1st April to 3rd of April. So the working group meeting was there in Siliguri, West Bengal, and the first GW की जो meeting की अगर बात करें, tourism meeting was hosted in Rann of Kutch in Gujarat. This is for first and this is second. So do not confuse between the venues. And more than 200 Buddhist monasteries, 40 UNESCO sites, that is the World Heritage sites, and state and national archaeological sites were developed, which call for the prayers and even for the part of the involvement of the citizen of this country, right? So these were some of the part that was the decision that was taken during the first meeting. Now, what is the roadmap for Government of India? As I said you that the 1 trillion economy that will be there for tourism is a target for 2047, right? Now, in this context, to achieve this target, there are focus that need to be there. And the focus will led by the PPP mode. This is what the government said, that the public-private partnership is something that is very important in this context. And the center has prioritized some area where they will be looking forward to achieve this, which are those areas that include the green tourism, digitalization, skilling of the individual, not only the level of the people they are working, but skilling of an individual who will be there at the ground also. Tourism, micro, small and medium enterprises, and destination management, right? We have many destination that is even significant. India has the World Heritage Site, but some of the sites have national importance and significantly relevant at the global level. The government is observing Vision India 2023, a program which invites the entire world to explore India. Now, there are 2 mega trials that the government has set. So these 2 mega trials will be launched, actually was launched in Himalaya and Ganges this year. So these trial will be followed by like Narmada trial from Amarkantak in Madhya Pradesh to Arabian Sea. Second is Kaveri River and the West Coast Trail to Kutch in Kanyakumari, and the East Coast Trail from West Bengal to Kanyakumari. So make sure you're thorough with the map work, because there can be a direct question from the map work related. The UPSC tend to ask question from maps. So observing the topography, the country basically your ideal destinations for sustaining adventurous tourism will also be promoted. If you see North India, even the part of the region of Uttarakhand, they have the tourism, adventurous tourism promoted. Even Himachal Pradesh has it. So these are things that will be promoted to a larger extent. Now we have draft national tourism policy that government has come up with. So this policy called from a framework where sustainable and responsible growth of the tourism sector is there. And this particular policy aimed at developing and improving the framework conditions for tourism development in the country, pan-India, supporting the tourism industries and strengthening the tourism, which highlight India's commitment to achieve the SDG goal by 2030. Now, moving to the other news, border talks between India and Bhutan, something really important for General Studies paper 2 under the subtopic of General Studies, that is India and its neighborhood relations. So Bhutan King is on a 3-day visit to India, and there are a lot of issues that will be discussed apart from the agreement that will be there. But something that is important, this is the news, because Bhutan Prime Minister has categorically noted that China has an equal say when it's come to resolve the border dispute. Now, this particular statement has made chaos, and even we as an internal issue do not want any other country to affair on the matter. But if the other country, the counterpart country is looking for this, then we have to manage it, we have to support it. Now, the focuses of this visit will be there in terms of border China, खास करके भूटान और चाइना के बीच में जो border disputes है, that will be given priority, and India is looking forward, leap forward apart from the border dispute as well to strengthen the bilateral relationship. Now, if you see in the map work, something that will be relevant, you can see these are the Gangtok region in India. Now, apart from this, this is Atula Pass, and this is the area which is the disputed one, right? So Doklam Plateau, which is claimed by Bhutan and both China. So that is the reason Bhutan wanted a consensus, a unanimity between there for Bhutan and China. Now there's a MOUs between Bhutan and China in October 2021, where Bhutan and China has signed the Memorandum of Understanding, right? So this was a 3-step map to expedite the process of resolutions in terms of border dispute. And the discussion was there in 2 valleys between Bhutan North and Doklam area in the west of Bhutan, right? So there's a tri-junctions with India, which is on the site of the standoff between India and Chinese forces in 2017. So this is what I'm talking about, the tri-junctions. Now, India has been particularly watchful for possibly the swap agreement between the 2 countries that could affect both security and the tri-junction. So India's stand is that we need a clear-cut policies. If it's China, then there should be some consensus and negotiation. If it is Bhutan, there should be a separate consensus and negotiations. Now, focus area of talk. So India and Bhutan will discuss the long-standing issues of high-level exchange between the 2 countries, and even some part of the agreement that will be there in this bilateral cooperations will call for advancing the bilateral partnership, including the economic and development cooperations, specifically between India and Bhutan, right? Both countries is expected to discuss India's support to Bhutan in a 5-year plan. India as a proactive measure supporting our neighborhood, and India's assistance in Bhutan 12-year plan is close to 4,500 crore rupees. Now, ISRO successfully conducts RLV landing test, something very important, and this is significantly relevant for General Studies paper 3 under the subtopic of GS, that is achievement of India in science and technology, Indianization of technology and development of new technology. So recently, Indian Space Research Organization has informed that it has successfully conducted the reusable launch vehicles at aeronautical test range, something important, a milestone. There can be a direct question in the prelims examination. Now, the autonomous landing was carried out at the exact conditions for the space re-entry vehicle landing speed. Even the unmanned and precise landing was there. So this is the image, official image that was released by ISRO. And I just wanted to add here, if you want to get more clarity how the things actually work and how the landing process works, there's a video in the ISRO's YouTube channel, basically official channel. You can watch that. Because of the copyright issue, I cannot publish the video over here, right? So go and watch it. You'll get a complete idea how the things work. Now, hypersonic suborbital vehicles, the re-entry for hypersonic suborbital vehicle, that is accomplished by the development of reusable launch vehicles. So reusable as a technology, as a concept, is again relevant for prelims examination. And the reusable vehicle has autonomous landing missions, that is dream for India reusable launch, that will be one step closer to reality. So the final launch has already took place. Now will be leap forward, moving ahead for the complete process. Now, how it will be significant for India's space industry? Successful use of the RLV legs. This will demonstrate the adaptations of contemporary technology, which will be for the reusable launch of autonomous landing missions that can make the operational of ISRO program very cost effective and even using the state-of-art technology. The reusable launch vehicle technology, that is the technology demonstration program, as a series of technology demonstration mission that has been conceived by ISRO. So it's like you can say it's an indigenous technology, it's a self concept technology that ISRO has come up with, and this will be definitely having a long-term impact when it comes to have a cost, when it's come to having using the Indianizations of the reusable technologies. Now, moving to the editorial of the day. This is the first editorial, that is India's fossil fuel lessons for net zero. Now, this is important for General Studies paper 3, that is conservation, environmental pollutions, degradation, and EIA. So what we'll be discussing in this editorial? So the first is the fossil fuel and clean energy. This is main theme of this article. I'll be looking into the background part, learning from the past and the way forward. So if you see background, just to tell you, I think most of you must be aware that India has set a net zero emissions target by 2070. So this is a target that was set, and India has even launched the Pancha Amrit initiative that called for a lot more initiative, part of the target that India has set. So other than that, the other target that is set for 2030, and India is powering a model where economic development that could be avoided with the carbon intensive approaches. Now, in 2020, the central government has introduced the PLI scheme, that is the production linked incentive scheme for minerals components that and other equipments that for generation and consumption of the clean energy. Now, one thing that is important, that you should know all the 5 pledges. This is what I was talking about, the 5 Panchamrit plan. So first is India will increase its net zero fossil capacity to 5 gigawatt by 2030. This is the first. Second, that India will meet 50% of energy requirement by 2030. Third, that India will reduce the total projected carbon emissions by 1 billion ton, that is by 2030. And by 2030, India will reduce the carbon intensity of its economy by 45%. Earlier target was 35%, right? And by 2070, India will achieve the target of net zero emissions. Now, these are the brief about the net zero emissions, and these are the pledges that is made by country. You can pause this video, even you can take the screenshot for a revision purposes. Now, learning from the past, what are the lessons that we need to learn? So in 40 years down the line, there were a lot of efforts made by different government in terms of having a self-reliance in energy and even shifting towards the clean energy, but the achievement was not met when it comes to the clean energy. So there are 4 learning that we are discussing in detail. I'll be discussing each learning one by one. So the first learning, that the liberalization of upstream petroleum did not bridge the gap. जो ज़रूरतें पूरी होनी चाहिए थी, वो actually नहीं हुई, and even the demand was not met. On contrary to that, it said that the gap has even widened, right? So the surrounding economic, technical, and operational ecosystem must enable the conversion into commercial useful product, so that it is actually helping for the targeted people. Now, the bulk of hydrocarbon resources that is located in the Harsh Strait, complex geology is there. Definitely, we have a complex geology in terms of many areas. So even to have an exploration, we need to coordinate with the scientific temperament and the ways that can help us to get the right potential, right? So this is because the high cost of drilling and development has a consequence where low percentage of hydrocarbon was even discovered, and even the impetus was not made. Now when government know that we have a commitment at the global level, at the global forum, this is something that should be there, and the focus should be definitely there, which has not yet been made. Now the second is that the recovery rate of oil and gases for India producing field is averaged between 25 to 30%. So this is relevant. I mean, you can use this even in mains examination. Now this means that every 100 molecule discovered, only 25 to 30 were brought to the surfaces, right? So recovery rate in the field is comparatively, like if you across the geological sector, if you see, the world is within between 40 to 60, but for India it is just 25 to 30. So there can be a comparison, and the reason for differences with not accessing having the enhanced oil recovery is the available of technology, which is mostly in the offsets, and still there are only limited companies that is operating in India with such great technology. The reason is again the utilization of this technology, which has not yet been efficiently implemented. So effective implementations की अगर बात करें, this is not there, and government should definitely come up with the policies or even call for the collaborations. Triple P can be again a game changer in this sector. Now third is the liberalization of economy. If you see the economic liberalization, the part of the development that took place. So in this context, the policy has triggered the expectations that has set the floor for investor interest. And even this happened, like if you see the part, like this has happened because of the international company regarding the India's geology, because they think that the fiscal and the commercial term were intentionally competitive. Even if you see the labors and the other part of exploration that has to be done compared to other country, India has a potential, but again the policy of the government should be backed. In response to that, the invitations should be bid by the exploration license that was muted. So this is the policy measures that government of India need to take, and the endeavor should be there for the lower entry barriers, providing ease of doing business. Ease of doing business is something that is very important. And in this context, the high cost of operation environment was making companies reluctant to proceed further. Now, last but not the least, the fourth, that India remained dependent on the external market for the supplies of petroleum. There's no geological magic mode in which the rivers and imbalances will address the vulnerability, that is unexpected supply disruptions. And further, the government in the recent year has secure the supplies without getting embroiled in the domestic or regional politics or conflict. Now, what will be the way forward, how this target can be met, and what are the things that we need to do? First, India should resist, therefore, building a high-cost domestic and clean energy hubs for forever deployment, and subsidies should also be provided. If you see China has a low-cost supplier of clean energy, right? India should also continue to work in this same policies. And on one track, where we have a conflict in the border, the other part of the trade relationship can be improved. In border dispute is not something, if we have a border dispute, will not further go with any other trade. There can be trade relations that can improve, and both India and China face the storm of global warming at the global level. So they can work together to reach out the obligation of net zero emissions, and even if they work together, the target can be met at the earliest. Now, moving to the second editorial of the day, that is India needs a national program on autism, something relevant for General Studies paper 2, that is issues related to development and management of health. Now, what I'll be discussing in this editorial, the first theme is that the need for the national program on autism, assessing autism, variations in the autism cases, demand and supply in India, and the need for all India. So I'll start the discussion with very basic. What is autism? I think most of you must be aware of by the definition, but those of you who don't know, autism, that in medical term we call it autism spectrum disorder. It's a developmental disability caused by the differences in the functioning of the brain, right? If you Google it, you'll find the images how the stages of autism different in child. There's a different neurological and brain activity that actually do not mature. So the condition is characterized by the social skill, repetitive behavior, speech, and non-verbal communications, right? So there can be like the portions can be damaging any of the sections. Now at this point, India do not have any systemic estimate of the autism prevalence. The data is not there with us. Even the government of India has not even focuses upon to collect the data. That is a great vacuum coming out when it comes to the prevention of autism, we do not have any data as of now. Now, none of the hospital have kept any record, and how many children have been diagnosed with the autism is not clear. If the data is not there, we cannot formulate a policy. That is a bigger challenge here. Now, if you see the symptoms of level, part of the autism, they're level 3. See what happens, that there's an inability and use of spoken language, extreme sensitivity is there, lower IQ is there, many repetitive behaviors there, like violent rocking and door smiling, and even the physical symptoms like sleepiness and epilepsy are there. So these are the level 3 of the autism. They're different level at different stages. Now, accessing autism is very important. So there are questionnaires and interviews. There are some observation measures. These all are psychological measures, right? So these are the psychological measures which help the psychologists, even the clinical psychologists, to measure the level of autism. So observational measures, the verbal informations, performances, and even the transferable across the culture and setting is something that is taken into consideration. A combination of questionnaires, interviews, alongside the observational measures is ideal for assessing the autism. So there's no set of instrument that can measure the part and the level of autism. There's certain measurement that go through. There's a societal level, there is psychological level, there's a medical level. So the stages that will assess the part of autism. So greater focuses is on the historical and under research in autism. So we look into the part of consideration like sleep, diet, sensory symptoms, immune functions that need to be included as a routine statement. So if you are accessing the part of autism, it needs a routine assessment. It's not something you have gone with a blood test and the final reports are there. It's not that easy. It takes time. Now, variations in the autism cases, the majority of the children with the autism spectrum diagnosed with the United States and United Kingdom, उनमें पाई गई कि they're likely verbal with average higher than the average IQ and attending mainstream school. So people in US and UK were these reported. Now, majority of children in India that are diagnosed with the autism have intellectual disability and limited verbal ability. So this is a problem that India is facing per se specifically. Now, the differences is driven by many sociological factors, and even the part of the inclusion of the mainstream school, the availability of medical insurance coverages, and the autism intervention is not at such level which was essentially required. Now, this raises the question about what we choose to correct the part of the autism. Does India has any policy? See, policies are there, right? But again, the data part is not there. Such level of parameters that must be incorporated by the government is not there. So we need to look into the part where first and foremost the diagnostic and data should be there. Now, demand and supply in India की अगर बात करें, according to the latest estimate, India has less than 10,000 psychiatrists which is working in the field, and when it comes to number, the health professional is also not there. So we have the paucity of the manpower, and even the evidences suggest that the feasibility and approach with the autism identification in Indian context is not as compared to the global level, because foreign में अगर देखें US and UK, they have some different measurement, but India we have certain ethical issues that is also evolved. So two pillars such as approach that is required. First, there's accreditation social worker, ASA workers हैं, and even the approach that is there, that the digital technologies that can help to give an observation data, learning process, and know the exact status of the autism in the country. Now, need for an all India program, definitely there's a policy intervention that is required. So far reaching, the need to develop a national program on autism, a clinical service provider and user in autism community in India should be there. A program that needs the essential component should be joined by assessment, intervention and awareness. Research needs to focus on refining appropriate assessment as well as implementing the pathways should be important, right? So first and foremost, we need to focus on increasing the usability infrastructure development where the autism is corrected, and even the manpower. The especially problem is the manpower. Now, the clinical support workforce need to be expanded. उनकी training की ज़रूरत है, एक special dedicated training that will help to sensitize the people and give them awareness about this. And last but not the least, that is to build the public awareness. Many families are not aware that their children are suffering from autism. So public awareness is very important to reduce the stigma and even come up with the issues to overcome the challenges in the autism. So awareness is very important. The parents should be aware. They should be aware whether their children is in autism stage, at which state, when they need the clinical intervention or any psychological intervention. So that will help India to degrade and reduce the number of autism in the country. Now moving ahead with the MCQ questions of the day. Before I proceed, just to tell you the answers of yesterday questions. For first question, the correct option is C. For second question, the correct option is A. Today's MCQ for practice, B-21 Radian. Consider the following statement. It's a new American Bombardier aircraft which is more than 30 years, and it is name taken from 1942 Deloitte rates. Second question is with regards to Akash missile. It's the 25 kilometers that can simultaneously engage multiple targets in all weather conditions. It was inducted in 2014 in Indian Air Force, in 2015 into Indian Army. So do check it out for the correct options. Practicing a lot more question will give you an added advantage in the upcoming prelims examination. This was all about for the daily news and editorial analysis, followed by the MCQ questions. If you have any other concern, you can reach out to us. We'll be more than happy to assist you. For time being, I'm signing off. Thank you so much for watching this video.